General Medicaid warning. The views expressed in 5-ish minute lore, the lore delivered in rants, are sanctioned by their scholar Progenium as excess rageous. Prolonged exposure can result in loss of IQ, high blood pressure, random outbursts, and blunt force trauma to the skull, resulting in unconsciousness. Please consult your local physician for more information.
Why am I being asked to do this? This is beneath me. I thought this was the Pharon's thing anyhow. Oh, under the weather, eh? Well, I figure he'll owe me then. I could make this work to my advantage. Very well then. The Legio Catechias, the Thunder Warriors. For when you need to conquer Age of Strife Terra, accept no substitutes. And when you want to betray your creations, leave no survivors.
Truth is, the game was rigged from the start.
Hello. Due to the Commissar coming down with a case of flu fever cold malaria, and due to his vocal cords resembling a set of rusted frayed guitar strings, I've been elected to fill in for him in the narration of this newest script. And so, we begin. Every story has a beginning, and in the beginning of the Imperium, before the first ships of the Great Crusade left Terra, there were the Thunder Warriors. During the Age of Strife, the world was literally Mad Max on steroids, and there was no end in sight. And the Emperor was far from the point where he would have been able to mass-produce the Space Marine legions that would eventually take the galaxy for humanity. The Emperor had dreams of more. However, you can dream all damn day of driving a Ferrari, but if you're on a Ford Focus budget, it's going to stay a dream unless you do something about it.
You should be a monster.
Well, the Emperor did something about it. During this time, the Emperor was also building up what would become the Legio Custodes. But there was a problem with the Custodians. The Custodians were the peak of genetic engineering and training, and took an absolutely absurd amount of time to make. To this day, each and every piece of weaponry and armor worn by the Custodians is a masterwork that can't be equaled. In short, Big E was building himself the most insanely overpowered bodyguard organization in history, because they were so hard to make that they would never really be more than that. So what to do? Think of yourself as the Emperor. You have a small army of literal gods of war that you really don't want to risk losing even one of them if your enemy decides to nuke the problem away, if that will work, and you have a whole world to conquer before you can go be a disappointing father. The Primarchs aren't even a thought yet, and you barely control the population of a small city in the Himalayan mountains. What to do? What to do?
China, 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 China.
Well, you just make a knockoff. Thus the Thunder Warriors were born. Hey, Jim Bob! You want to be a gene-enhanced warrior that can kick through someone's chest and throw cars? You do? Well, come on down to see my buddy, Big E. He'll fix you right up. No, you don't get to ask questions as to what's being shoved into your chest cavity. It's got vitamins, damn it, so pipe down. What? You're hearing voices? Well, that's all part of the plan, my friend. Stop being so whiny. We're going to give you a really big gun that blows apart a Honda Civic. Hold still while I do complex brain surgery on you. Stop squirming. Someone hand me a mallet. This thing the Emperor gave me isn't fitting. Anyone got a table saw so I can get it through the ribcage? Yes, I'm going to shove this in there. I don't care if your right arm is suddenly the size of your thigh. Stop crying. In all honesty, the process for making the Thunder Warriors was incredibly crude in comparison to the Custodians, but it all served a purpose. The Emperor intended to use them in two ways. One, a blunt force trauma weapon to conquer Terra, and two, as a testing platform for the genetic pattern he would eventually use on the Space Marines. The process of making them was likewise crude, especially in the beginning. The Emperor would go off and round up people to use in the program, and in many cases had to coerce not only the subjects, but the geneticists themselves into the procedure, mainly because it was terrifying, and there was no real guarantee that the massive murder monster the subject would become wouldn't just fly off the handle and start trying to murder everyone around them at some point during the transition process. This might not sound as worrisome as it should be, so let's elaborate. Your average Thunder Warrior was bigger than a Space Marine and almost hilariously stronger, faster, and in every way better at warfare. A Thunder Warrior was capable of fighting multiple Space Marines at the same time almost effortlessly, and could cave in the skulls of Space Marines just by headbutting them really hard. The baseline Thunder Warrior could put a Heresy-era world eater to absolute shame by the sheer amount of berserker fury they'd unleash on the battlefield, and while they were organised into what was called the Thunder Legions, there were barely more than 15,000 of them at any point. Each of the Thunder Legions was led by a single warrior, known as a Primarch, no relation to the Primarchs that would follow. All of this leads to the Thunder Warriors, in strategic terms, being nothing more or less than a thunder hammer with which to crack a pistachio, which they more or less were. The Thunder Warriors were meant to take anything and everything that Terra's other military powers could throw at them and not flinch, which they more or less did. The Thunder Warriors were a shock and awe weapon the likes of which hasn't been seen before or since. They would roll up into entire hordes of pissed off people and turn into living chainsaws. The brutality and wanton destruction they employed even perturbed the custodians, who are engineered not to have emotions. This was hilariously brutal by any measure. You might look at some artwork and think the Thunder Warriors were equipped in the finest No. No, they weren't. If you were lucky as a Thunder Warrior, you got to wear the Mark I Thunder Pattern power armor, which was barely power armor, considering only the upper half was powered. The lower half was literally just there. Sometimes you were given a Volkite weapon to use, but most times you were given a hilariously oversized bolter or lasgun. They really didn't need anything more than this than steamroll Terra into the ground, and steamroll it they did. You might think that all of this made the Thunder Warriors the perfect weapon, but remember how I said they might just fly off the handle and start murdering everyone in the room? Well, just that began to happen at an alarming rate. In fact, a lot of things were happening to the Thunder Warriors at an alarming rate, mostly in the form of cancers and other diseases that started killing them. The entire genetic strain was plagued by diseases and mental issues. In some instances, they would be walking along, doing whatever they were doing, and simply fall over dead.
Julian!
They were an outrageously unstable group, to say the least, both physically and mentally. So it should be absolutely no surprise to anyone that once they had cracked open Terra, their usefulness had completely run its course. The bad thing was, the Thunder Warriors knew all of this too, and a few of them weren't happy about it, especially when they found out they had been genetically engineered to die within a few decades. Thus, right when they were just figuring out the Emperor might not be that into them, Mount Ararat happened.
So basically, what I was thinking of was, oh fuck, I can't believe you've done this.
For those that don't know, the remaining Thunder Warriors left after the conquering of the entire planet were rounded up and sent to Mount Ararat. They were sent up the hill, conquered the mountain easily, and in the first great betrayal of the Imperium, the Emperor ordered the culling of the entire genetic strain. This single act wiped out nearly all of the Thunder Warriors, with only a small fraction surviving. The death of the Thunder Warriors sent shockwaves throughout the entire Imperium, with most people calling BS on the official explanation. But with the Emperor's control over the media, well, the truth is what we want it to be, especially when disagreement gets you in hot water. The last true stand of the Thunder Warriors came not on Mount Ararat, but at the doorstep of the Imperial Palace at the construction site of Infinity Gate. One of the leaders of the Thunder Legions, Ushotan, had made it to the Imperial Palace and allied with other Imperial officials looking to stage a coup. This was stopped dead in its tracks due to the presence of the custodian Constantine Valdor, as well as 10,000 of the First Legion of Astartes. After this, the Thunder Warriors were almost completely extinct, and aside from a small band which was wiped out by the 12th Legion, they were almost all hunted down by the First. The Thunder Warriors were a stopgap measure, built to take a single world, and take it they did. The genetic template used on them was refined and rebuilt multiple times, becoming more robust with each enhancement. To say they were a failed experiment is not factual in the slightest. They were a complete success. Because of the Thunder Warriors, Terra was taken. Because of them, the gene patterns for the Space Marines were perfected, and in many cases, the legions of the Thunder Warriors shared the same tactics as the Astartes legions of the same number. All hail the Thunder Warriors. Jim Bob's final form.